Hi, welcome to Gemini Star Spiritual Wellness. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you're here with me today for this video. So, in today's video, we're continuing the chakra information series. Today, we're going to be talking about the throat chakra. So, we're getting into the higher chakras now, into the spiritual chakras. So, I've already discussed basic chakra information as well as the root, sacral, solar plexus, and heart chakra. So, if you're interested in learning more about those specific chakras, go look at the playlist under Chakra Information Series, and they're all there for you, and you can go back and watch them. I'm just excited to be doing this series because I feel like it's important for people to learn more and more about the chakras because a lot of people just don't know. They don't have this information. So it's exciting to get it out there. So I'm sorry if it's a little dark today. The sun's kind of coming in and out of clouds. so so one minute it's light in here and then it gets dark. So I don't know what's going on if we're getting some rain coming in, but it's kind of the lighting's a little iffy today. But I had to put my hair up. It was just so hot. It's in July and it's just really hot here. And my children have a sense of humor and they think they're very clever. And they told me that when I do videos with my hair up and my glasses on, I look like a librarian. So I'm rocking the librarian look today for today's video. So today with this throat chakra, it's an interesting chakra, and I think it's one that people don't really pay attention to very much, but it's very important. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about it, but it's at the base of our throat. That's where it's located, and it's going back to the basics of chakra. It's like it's here and then there's behind us. So you've got like a little funnel coming out this way, but then you also have it behind your neck as well. So this is one of the chakras that has a front and a back on our physical body, and it's connected to the color light blue, and the element that it's connected to is etheric, which is interesting because we're getting into the spiritual level. So the three lower chakras, the root, sacral, and solar plexus, are more connected to your physical body. The heart chakra is kind of a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, and it's also the basis of everything because it's about unconditional love, so it kind of anchors all the chakras together. And then you've got the higher chakras starting with that are more into the spiritual level, starting with the throat chakra. So the throat chakra is connected to communication, to creativity, to truth, to self-expression, being your authentic self. And if it's balanced, you're going to have clear and honest communication, which can help with your relationships because it's good communication will be happening between you and someone else or other people, whether family or personal relationships. But it also can help with authentic self-expression and help you be able to speak your truth and be authentic about who you are. Now, if you have a blocked throat chakra, you could have trouble expressing yourself, expressing your thoughts or emotions, having a hard time speaking. Um, like having a hard time communicating, like say that you're trying to get the words out but you just can't seem to get those words out, it's not coming out. So that's what I mean by not being able to communicate. Having a fear of speaking in public can be an issue with the blocked throat chakra. Also, a fear of being authentic and speaking your truth. That can also be a problem with it being blocked. And it can also be another extreme too, because everyone's going to be different about how they are. If they have a blocked chakra, their symptoms are going to be different. But also, it could be the other end of the spectrum where you're speaking too much or you're rambling on without a direct point. You just keep rambling. So that could be another example of having a blocked chakra. So I'm going to tell you a brief personal experience of mine that kind of goes to this with the throat chakra. So, and I didn't realize this till I was older, but I think growing up, I probably had a partially blocked throat chakra like most of my life and didn't realize it. Because when I was a child, I had, I was, if you go back to my earlier videos, I talk about my spiritual journey and my experiences, and I won't get into that here. But when I was a child, I started having, psychic gifts and abilities popping up and happening when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old. And I remember, I was trying to like communicate with my parents and other people about what I was experiencing and seeing and things that were happening to me. And they just didn't understand. My parents were like, oh, you're just imagining things. And they just kind of brushed it off. And then I realized pretty quickly that, people didn't understand what I was talking about. And they weren't having the same experiences I was having. They weren't seeing what I was seeing or hearing what I was hearing. And they would give me funny looks when I would try to explain what was going on. And so I kind of learned as a child to just shut it down and not say anything and hold it in. So I wasn't being my authentic self, and I wasn't communicating, like I should have been about it. And I was holding it in and hiding it. And this went on for years and years and years. And I didn't really talk to people about my gifts. I just, things were going on, but I just kept it to myself. And even into my young adult years, I, kept it quiet. But when I started going through my spiritual awakening about 10 years ago, that's when things really took off. And it's kind of like when you go through a spiritual awakening, it's like the light switch goes off, and all of a sudden you're getting all these downloads and all this stuff's happening to you. And it's like, it's just coming at you like so fast and so much, it can be overwhelming. And at that point, I decided I was tired of hiding who I was. And I'm like, no, I feel like I need to be my authentic self. I need to speak my truth. And I started to do that. I started to speak my truth. I started to talk to people about my experiences and started to communicate. And I felt like, my throat chakra really did open up at that point. So I probably had a partially blocked throat chakra my whole life because I was holding that in. I wasn't really being my authentic true self for many years. And now over the last 10 years, it feels so much better. And what's interesting about that is, going into the physical symptoms of having the throat chakra blocked. I remember as a child that I had a lot of sore throats. I went through a period of time where, I was getting a lot of sore throats. And that's actually one of the physical symptoms of having that chakra blocked. So maybe, I'm sure that was probably part of the problem is it was partially blocked and I didn't know it because back then I knew nothing about chakras. But and some more physical symptoms would be like hoarseness, your voice is hoarse, having thyroid problems because our throat chakra is connected to the thyroid, which we'll get into that in a minute. Having sores in your mouth and gums, having gum disease, having TMJ symptoms with your jaw. And this is something very interesting, sinus and ear infections, because our eye, ear, nose, and throat are all connected. So having sinus and ear infections can be a symptom of having blocked chakra, as well as having like heavy, tight shoulders because it's all, it's up here, all connected, and also having headaches. That can be another physical symptom. So, there's all different physical and spiritual symptoms, but just remember that if your chakra is blocked, you're going to start to have energetic symptoms first. And then, as if it doesn't get relieved and it continues to be blocked, it will start to manifest physical symptoms in your physical body. So it's important to unblock it so that you can, keep it going, keep that chakra spinning properly like it needs to, so that you're not having the physical symptoms and everything's working good on the energetic level. So to balance it, if you're having problems with a blocked throat chakra, ways you can balance it would be breathing techniques, because it's connected with the throat, breathing exercises, as well as stretching, like doing neck stretches and meditation. So that's some ways that you can work on clearing up that throat chakra if it's blocked. So, as I said a couple minutes ago, your throat chakra is actually connected to your thyroid gland. And the throat chakra can be easily affected by, how can I say this, negative thought patterns and words. So, when you think about it, if you have negative thought patterns and you're thinking about it, you're giving it energy, that thought pattern. And same with words. If you're saying like negative words, you're giving that energy as well and turning it into your reality. So if it kind of goes to the emotions of frustration. So if you're frustrated, you have resentment, you're worried, or you have fear, and you're thinking those thoughts, but you're also speaking those words that go along with those emotions, that can easily affect your throat chakra and help and keep it from working properly and affect how it performs. And also anxiety can have an effect on your throat chakra because there's a hormone called thyroxine that's released that when you're anxious, it actually limits the flow of that hormone and can have a negative effect on how your thyroid works. So your thyroid helps to regulate your metabolism in your body. It also helps with your body temperature and the energy working through your body, how your energy works through your body. It helps with the metabolism of our cells and the growth of our cells. So it has a very, important function. And there is a hormone in pituitary gland that's connected to the thyroid called TSH, and it helps to regulate the thyroid gland. So they're connected. So so that's the organ that, the glands that chakra is connected to. So in the earlier videos, when I talk about the earlier chakras, I was talking about there are 7 energetic layers around us, so electromagnetic layers that surround our body, and it's shaped like, I guess you could say it looks like a little egg. It's like a, a cocoon around our body of different layers, and each layer is connected to our chakras. So every layer has a chakra it's connected to. So for the throat chakra, it's connected to our 5th layer, which is our spiritual layer, and it's our etheric template layer. And this is an extremely important layer. And it's about 1.5 to 2 feet from our body, this layer. So it's pretty far away from our body. But what's important about it is it's connected. How it functions kind of depends on our first 4 layers, because the lower chakras are closer to the body and they're within the first 4 layers. But if those layers are gunked up and they're not working properly and they're polluted, and those layers aren't flowing like they should be with the energy and taking care of what they need to take care of, then it's going to make your 5th layer, your etheric template layer, harder to function properly. So really you need those first 4 layers to be really working properly and be unpolluted, so that so that the 5th layer can work properly, because now you're getting into the spiritual level. And this is a very important layer because this layer connects us to our higher self and divine will. So it's connecting us. It's starting to, we're getting into those spiritual chakras, and it's connecting us to our higher self and divine will. And that's very important, especially while we're here in the physical body. And this layer helps us with to take responsibility for our actions, and allows us to make positive choices, and also helps us with decisions in our life and to be able to see things more clearly in this layer. So that's real important, especially having that connection to divine will, because you want to be able to see things clearly so you can make positive, high vibrational decisions. So if that layer's mucked up, you're going to have a hard time seeing things clearly, taking responsibility for your actions, and making positive choices for your life. And having a hard time connecting to divine will, but also connecting to your higher self, and that can cause problems, while spiritually for yourself. So, and this layer also works with communication as far as listening and speaking. So if you it has like it's the power of our words are in this layer. Excuse me, the power of our words. So just, so listening and speaking, that power of those words that you're listening and speaking are all within that 5th etheric template layer. So it's very important layer for that as well. So our higher self, we all have a higher self, and it's here to help guide us, to keep us, on our mission and path that we need to be following on the earth plane. And the nice thing about our higher self is it doesn't have an ego. It's not connected to the 3D world. So it doesn't have an ego to deal with, or it doesn't have emotions and feelings like you do in the lower dimension. So it's here strictly like, okay, to help keep you on path. What's your mission? Because the problem is, when we come to the 3D world, and we come into this, physical existence, we don't remember what our mission is. And so we're guided by our higher self and our spirit guides to help guide us on our mission. And that's why having that layer working properly is so important, because you want to stay connected to the divine will. You want to stay connected to your higher self so it can help guide you to make these good decisions, to take responsibility, and to basically be able to see your life clearly and see what you need to do. Um, and also, like, if those first 4 layers are polluted, like, I just mentioned, or they're not functioning properly, then it's going to be harder for you to connect to your higher self. So it's going to be much harder for you in the physical world as too, in the physical existence. So all forms that are in existence, there is, in the physical plane. So everything that's in all forms in the physical plane, there's a basis form for them. And it's for the physical body and an etheric body. So there's like a basis, and it starts with this layer. So it's like everything that has a physical, how can I say it? Everything that has a physical existence, there's like a etheric blueprint to it, a spiritual blueprint to it. And it starts, on this layer. So and that's another thing that's important about it is its base form. The blueprints for that are in this layer. They start on the level. So, and that's important to know. And that's interesting, like that everything in existence physically, there's a, etheric blueprint for it. And we don't really think about things like that, but that's definitely the truth. Hold on, I'm gonna grab a drink here. Okay. So um this layer, what's interesting about this layer, because we're talking about, words in this layer, like listening and speaking. So the key point of this layer is sound. And sound creates matter. And the most effective approach to healing in this layer is through sound because it creates matter. So that would make sense because this is the layer of communication of speaking and listening. So it makes sense that sound, when you're saying words and the sounds that you're using, that the frequency of the sound can be used for healing in this layer. And it's it helps create matter is what I'm trying to say as well. So not just healing, but also helps it create matter. So in the earlier videos, I talk about each chakra takes about 7 years to develop. So it's a long process. It doesn't happen quickly. And this chakra develops, the throat chakra develops between the ages of 28 and 35. So that's quite interesting because we think about when you're 28 to 35, you're kind of like figuring out who you are and getting more into that authentic part of yourself, and you're learning how to communicate more better with others. You're figuring out honest communication, better communication. You have like pretty deep relationships at this point with family and with a significant other in your life. And so it's kind of it's interesting how the chakras develop at times in our life that really coincide with what we're working with that chakra. And definitely for the throat chakra, I could see where 28 to 35 is definitely an important time of development for that chakra. But I also feel like I'm going back to, I keep feeling like self-expression and honesty and honest communication. And those are the years that of your age from 28 to 35 where you're really developing that and you're really learning how to communicate better and to be your authentic self and not be afraid to speak your truth because you're getting older at that point into your 30s, and you're getting more confidence in yourself, and you're accepting yourself more for who you are, and also figuring out who you are, because some people, in your 20s you might not quite know who you are yet, but by the time you start getting into your 30s you're figuring it out. So that's when that chakra is developing, is a 28 to 35 age range for the throat chakra. So I'm looking, making sure I got everything. And it looks like I did. I think I did get everything. Just want to make sure looking at my notes because sometimes I forget things and I don't want to forget anything. All right, but I think that's all my notes on the throat chakra, but I want to end with some crystals because crystals can really help with your chakras and help enhance their ability and what they do. And the crystals for the throat chakra, the soldenite is one of them, and it's a blue. I don't know if you can see it. Try to get close to the camera here. It's a very pretty blue, and this is, I have a bracelet of it that I like to wear on a regular basis, and I just love blue's my favorite color, so I really like to wear a lot of blue. I don't know if you can see it. You see it? Yeah, such pretty. Such pretty colors. Turquoise is another one that you can use for the throat chakra. Rainbow fluorite is another crystal. And lapis lazuli, I'm probably not saying it. Lapis lazuli, I'm probably not saying that right, but see if you can bring it up. Trying to get it into view there. There we go. Look at how pretty. It's so blue and pretty. And I've got these ones by my bed. I like to meditate with these. And like, if you get a little closer so you can see the pretty, has some pretty blue colors in it. Very pretty. But these are some of the different crystals that you can use for the throat chakra. So you can see it and kind of get my fingers out of the way there so you can see it. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry that it's getting dark again. There we go. So I don't know why it's doing that. But thank you so much for joining me today. And I will be coming out with the third eye chakra here shortly. So I hope you enjoy this chakra series, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.